The Samsung S24 series released in January this year is easily one of our favorite flagship models even to this day, especially the S24 Ultra. It has everything you can think of, but there's just one problem. All of that performance and the features come at a price. A high price for that matter. For reference, the standard S24 starts at 61,990 pesos. If you want the S24 Ultra, well, that will set you back 84,990 pesos for the 512GB variant. So if you're someone on a tight budget, these phones might well be out of reach, especially at this moment. Well, there's always the option of buying secondhand, but of course, if you want brand new, they're gonna be very expensive. Now, almost 10 months since the S24 series was released, a new member of the family has arrived, the S24 FE. It is more affordable than the standard S24, but you do trade some performance and features that you would find in the S24 with the S24 FE. In fact, you can think of the S24 FE as a bridge between the A55 and the standard S24. But the question remains, is it worth it, especially with all of the lacking goodies? Well, I'm Austin from Yugatech, and let's find out in this review of the Samsung S24 FE. In terms of styling and design, the S24 FE adopts the signature Samsung design language. Just look at it. You can tell it's already a Samsung. We have a clean, minimalist back panel with the camera lenses at the upper left corner. There's no camera island either, and you just get 3 individual circles. As a result, it looks very much like its S24 siblings and even the more affordable A55, but it does not have that raised portions for the buttons. It has the same button layout too. Volume rocker and the power button are on the right side, while the entire left side is clean. At the bottom, you get the USB-C port and the loudspeaker, which is now a small slit similar to the one on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Fold 6. At the top, you'll find the dual SIM card slot, the secondary microphone, and the other loudspeaker. Yes, you get stereo speakers on this phone. Now, I know some of you might find this bland since it looks like any other Samsung smartphone, but it works. Undoubtedly, the phone looks stylish and the minimalist look helps, especially in this pastel blue colorway, which I find really nice. It's great that Samsung didn't cheap out on the materials on this phone either. The frame is still made out of aluminum, similar to the one on the S24 series. And it comes with a glass back panel, protected with Corning Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. Now, in terms of size, it is a bit big though, measuring slightly longer and thicker than the S24 Plus. It also weighs a bit more at 213 grams. But there's no doubt you'll feel right at home with the S24 FE if you've ever used one of the newer Samsung smartphones. Moving on to the screen, you have a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display with full HD Plus resolution. This being an AMOLED panel, you get very vibrant colors and deep blacks, and I definitely enjoyed binge watching my favorite YouTube videos on this phone. Not to mention, there's also support for HDR10+. Initially, I thought the screen was a carryover from the S24 Plus, given that they do have the same size. However, I noticed that the borders on the S24 FE are relatively thicker, especially on the bottom compared to the ones on the S24 and S24 Plus. Now, if you plan on using this phone outside, you have 1,900 nits of peak brightness to work with. While other phones have brighter screens, I find that 1,900 nits is more than adequate, at least for my use. I was still able to see everything on the screen very clearly, even though I was outdoors directly under the summer sun. Gamers will definitely enjoy playing on this phone too. It has a 120Hz refresh rate, giving me very smooth animations. I specifically like playing Genshin Impact on this phone because of just how smooth the screen is, but we'll talk more about that later on. Now, for those of you who like binge watching on your smartphones, just like me, the S24 FE comes with dual stereo speakers. It has great speakers with decent bass and a nice sound quality. The mids are quite clear and they don't sound muddy even if you max out the volume. When you do max out the volume though, it is very loud, making it easy for you and your friends to hear what's happening on the screen or hear whatever the person that's on the screen is saying. Just like the back panel, the display is protected by Corning Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, making it quite tough and scratch resistant. But of course, try not to drop your phone. This is still a sensitive gadget after all. The cameras on the S24 really impressed us this year, especially the S24 Ultra. However, this is where the S24 FE received the short end of the stick. I mean, from the looks of it, you still get your triple rear camera system highlighted by 50 megapixel main shooter with PDAF and OIS. However, it only comes with an 8 megapixel telephoto with OIS and a 12 megapixel ultra wide to match. For selfies, you get a 10 megapixel front camera. When taking photos, the camera doesn't automatically shoot in 50 megapixel mode, but only captures in 12 megapixels. Instead, you have to toggle that in the settings to fully maximize the camera. When you do shoot in 50 megapixel mode, you do lose the ability to use the ultra wide, and zoom is limited to just 5 times at most. Based on my experience though, you don't necessarily need to use 50 megapixel mode even when you're taking photos. Even shooting at just 12 megapixels, you can capture some great photos that are sharp and clear. The colors aren't as vivid, but what's important is that they are very accurate. And I like how the post-processing isn't overly exaggerated either. Now, I know some of you viewers might find the images a bit too natural, but I do like the vibe they give off. It's also perfect if you're someone who likes to edit the images in post, just like how I usually do my photos. One thing I did notice is that the ultra-wide isn't the best, especially in low light conditions. When using the ultra-wide, the drop in quality is very noticeable, especially compared to using the main shooter. The edges of the subject aren't as sharp anymore, and even the subject looks a lot softer. As I mentioned earlier, this is a lot more noticeable when in low light, coupled with the added grain and noise as compared to shooting using the main shooter. As for the telephoto, it's not that bad though. The drop in quality doesn't begin unless you go beyond 3x zoom, which is to be expected. It can go up to 30 times zoom, but the image quality at that point is significantly degraded. Still, you can make out some of the details and the phone's post-processing helps. All things considered though, I did eventually find myself taking photos using just the standard zoom or up to 3 times zoom most of the time. To see for yourself, just check out the sample images here. In terms of video quality, the S24 FE can record up to 8K at 30 FPS, which is a nice surprise to have. Even at 8K, there seems to be some form of stabilization to help you capture more steady footage. There's also 4K at 60 FPS, and there's even 240 FPS slow-mo if you just want to get some slow-mo shots. While there's super steady mode, it only works at QHD or 2K at 60 FPS max. The difference in quality from 8K is quite noticeable, but in exchange for super smooth footage, it is worth it. As for the video quality, it's similar to what you'd expect in the photos. In fact, I'll let you check it out for yourself in this montage. Aside from capturing photos and videos, one feature of the S24 FE's camera that I really liked is Bixby Vision. It works with Samsung's new AI features and allows you to discover what item is in front of the camera. Just point the camera at the thing you're interested in and it will give you various results of what that item might be. It's a cool feature to have, especially if you want to know more about an object. Just point the camera at the thing you're interested in and it will give you various results of what that item could be, at least based on the search. It's a cool feature to have, especially if you want to know more about an object and don't know what it's called. Like, maybe you don't know what this remote is called. It's a nice tool to find out new things and maybe even learn in the process. As with the latest Samsung smartphones, the S24 FE runs on One UI 6.1 based on Android 14 out of the box. As you would expect, it's pretty much the same OS we've come to love, but with the addition of new AI features. I've already mentioned one of those in the camera section, which is Bixby Vision. But aside from that, you do get the usual suite of AI features that we discovered with the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip and Z Fold 6. Going back to the OS itself, like before, there's barely any bloatware apart from the usual Samsung apps, which is something that I always like with the Samsung OS. Under the hood, the Samsung S24 FE runs an Exynos 2400E chipset with up to 3.1 GHz clock speeds. Our unit comes with 8 GB of RAM, which can be virtually expanded by another 8 GB and only 128 GB of internal storage. I know, it's not a lot, and there's no micro SD slot to expand storage further. So if you want more space, you will have to buy either the 256 GB variant or the 512 GB variant. For those of you unfamiliar, the Exynos 2400E is a new chipset that just debuted on the S24 FE. Paired with just 8 GB of RAM, you might think this phone won't be as capable as the S24, at least in the performance department. But after using it, it's surprisingly fast and capable. It easily handled day-to-day tasks with ease, and even loading the AI features were fast too. I mean, provided you'd have fast internet. Now, even though I left several apps running in the background, the phone didn't slow down, even with just having 8 GB of physical RAM. But what really surprised me was how capable is this phone for gaming. I played Genshin Impact on this phone and it was very smooth. Even with all the graphic settings maxed out, I did not experience any lags or frame rate drops at all. Together with the nice screen and speakers, it was enjoyable to play Genshin on this phone for extended periods of time. Not just to complete my dailies, but to explore Tevat itself. One thing I did notice is that the S24 FE tends to heat up quite fast. Even after just playing for 15 to 20 minutes, you can already feel the back panel heating up. Surprisingly though, this did not cause any issues with gameplay at all. Genshin was still running very smoothly, even with a lot of things happening on the screen, like multiple skills being used, cast, and everything. Considering how it performed with Genshin, I wasn't surprised to see that it scored well with the benchmarks too. It had a score of almost 1.5 million on Antutu, which was genuinely surprising considering, FE models aren't exactly the most powerful. And if you want to know more about it, you can check out the rest of the benchmark scores right here. Now, before the S24 FE, the previous FE models tend to suffer a lot in terms of performance. So it's nice that Samsung addressed it with this new one. Given how capable the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE is, you might think that the battery life isn't that long. I mean, it does only have a 4700 mAh battery pack, which is smaller than the usual ones you see in smartphones today. Surprisingly though, it lasts equally long or even better than some of those. Using PCMark's Work 3.0 battery test, the S24 FE managed to score 16 hours and 18 minutes, which is an impressive result. For reference, we did our test on airplane mode, 0 volume, and 50% brightness as standard with all of the phones here. Now, we always say that battery life is dependent on the end user, but with the S24 FE, you definitely won't find yourself needing to recharge this phone quite as often. It's a good thing too because it doesn't really have the fastest charging. It only has 25-watt wired charging and 15-watt wireless charging. It does have reverse wireless charging capabilities, but there's no mention of speed. Nonetheless, you will have long downtimes using this phone, which I experienced for myself. As for connectivity, you get the complete set of features: 5G, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.3, GPS, NFC, and the like. Now, before, the FE models always had this reputation of being just an upgraded A-series model. Now, the S24 FE is something that you would actually consider a family of the S24. Best of all, it starts at 39,990 pesos for the 8GB plus 128GB variant, which is just half that of the standard S24. At the moment we recorded this video, Samsung also has a promo offering the 8 plus 256GB variant for the same price as this one, the 8 plus 128GB variant. There's also the Samsung trade-in promo where you can get up to 24,000 pesos in discount, which makes this phone a lot more affordable. Now, this phone isn't perfect. The downside is with the S24 FE, you do have to contend with the cameras not being as great as the S24 series or even some of its competitors in the same price range. In comparison to other phones in this price range, some of those have flagship level cameras already. But if you're someone who's on a tight budget and want a great Samsung experience, the Galaxy S24 FE will definitely not disappoint. Still, if you want the ultimate Samsung experience, I would recommend saving up because in a few months' time, the new S25 series should arrive. And we have very high expectations for the S25 Ultra. I know the price difference is big, but you have time to save up. In any case, what do you think of the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE though? Would you cop or would you drop? Share your thoughts in the comment sections below. And if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, do drop a like and subscribe to watch more. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, visit yugatech.com to stay updated with the latest tech news and reviews. Also, if you want to check out our other Samsung Galaxy videos, you can check them out on the channel. It should be down here. Anyways, it's been Jose, and I'll see you guys in the next video.